is another world. It was exactly another world. So I was out and proud in school, and then I moved off to this college, and was very happy to say, no, of course I wouldn't agree to this, and if you're going to sack me, you're going to sack me. I couldn't tear it down. Partially because I had no mortgage and I knew I was going off to Oz. I'd fallen in love with an Australian woman and I was going over there. What I was appalled and frightened and disgusted with, when I'd gone to Hammersmith College, there was this bunch of really strong lefties. And it was the first time I'd ever met lefties, really. I'd lived a very sheltered life. I hadn't gone to university, I'd gone to drama college. I was the only lesbian in the drama college in London in the 60s. It's really weird, isn't it? You know, you think,
Yeah. How is it possible?
How is it possible, exactly? But we weren't very political because we were too busy being arty-farty. So when I got to Hammersmith College, there were all these really radical socialists, communists, you know, out there doing stuff. So I thought, well, they're going to sign, aren't they? Not one did. And there were several gay people in that group. Now, to be fair, they had mortgages and they were worried about losing their jobs. But goddess, did that teach me something? You know, you've got to, if you're going to talk, you've got to walk your talk. And very quickly I realized that, you know, not everybody does walk their talk. So I think pride is so important to enable us literally to walk our talk. And it's, you know, we have this debate, is pride a party or is it a protest? It's both. But the protest bit, I think, now is incredibly important. Given what's happening in this country, given what our so-called Labour government, which we're all wanting desperately for, have let us down massively, we have got to tell them that they've let us down. And tomorrow there's a lobby, and if any of you have got time, at Westminster to lobby your MP about trans issues. And I will be there, but I have a gay MP who seems to think she may not come to see me, which I'm very pissed off about. However, I will be there yelling. The pride, it seems to me, is a really focal point, and I think, you know, Maz was making the point now that we have so many prides. And for me, that's quite wonderful. You know, they're the big ones in Manchester, big ones in London, where you can be anonymous, in a sense. You can go off and you can dance and you can scream and you can shout, wave at the crowds, and probably, you know, your mum won't know you're there. But the local ones, to me, are really important. And the fact that we can now have local prides, which we wouldn't have had 20 years ago, you know, in a sense, it shows the process that we have gone through, that we now feel comfortable to have our small local prides, so where we're not anonymous, where our community will see us. Now, I'm in Margate, and Margate have done the most wonderful job. There's a bunch of people there who have worked their socks off to make Margate Pride feasible and also inclusive. I moved down to Margate about 12, 13 years ago, and it was very white. I mean, I had lived in Peckham and I'd squatted in Brixton, so, you know, my life was very inclusive and very diverse. Moving to Margate was a bit of a challenge, but the work that Margate Pride people have done has been phenomenal, and we have seen a real shift in the population of Margate into being much more inclusive. And when you come to Margate Pride on the 9th of August, you'll discover how inclusive it is. And the fact that we have, in Margate, we have this really interesting groupage. We've got the Dreamland with the fun fair, and we have all our community stalls there, and Schools Out will have their stall there. And then we have the Turner Gallery. Now, the Turner Gallery has just had Steve McQueen's amazing expedition, thank you, protest, with all these wonderful photographs of people protesting, from Greenham Common to the Deptford Fire to the miners' strike. You know, everybody was there. It was just phenomenal. And I kept looking at all the photos, and there were people that I knew had taken photographs, but they somehow missed me or they didn't choose it. But it was the most phenomenal exhibition. The Turner Gallery really is an exciting gallery. So small prides can then link with their communities. And what's wonderful is when I talk to shops in Margate, straight heterosexual people running their shops, they say that the Margate Pride is something they really look forward to. And they really recognize how important it is to have it and how friendly everybody is. Having said all that, we have just voted reform, which is a bit worrying. Thanet itself has got a Labour council, but Kent generally has now got reform. So the work that we will need to do is going to be phenomenal. I think the other thing that Pride does is really work to wake people up about rights of LGBT people are in other countries, not just ours. And I think it's absolutely crucial that Pride does that work, that links up internationally. You'll all be aware of the fact that nationally we are not, I mean, we were the UK used to be number 1. We've now dropped to 22 in the ILGA association. But there are other countries which are even worse than us and doing horrendous things to their LGBT people. And we need to make those links. I was just outside Hungary. I was invited to Hungary about 3 years ago to launch their LGBT History Month. And they've been running one for about 10 years. It's amazing. And you'll be aware of what's happening in Hungary at the moment. The really exciting thing is the mayor of Budapest, whose name, when translated into English, is Christmas. And I think he is giving us Christmas because he is making sure that Pride can happen in Budapest. I mean, even though Orbán is saying no, he is standing up and saying it's going to be a municipal event. And I think that's one of the interesting things that we're now seeing. In America, there are cities who are saying, having Trump said you can't have Pride flags, they're changing their flags to include the Progress flag. So I think it's one of the things that we need to be thinking about. When we think about Pride, who do we link with? Do we work with companies? Well, 20, 30 years ago, I would have been very saying, oh, no, we don't work with commercial people. They're dreadful. But the shift with commercial companies now, I think, is phenomenal. The real recognition that they have now clocked, A, it's a moral situation to be more inclusive of LGBT people, but B, it's a business thing. They have clocked that if they are careful, and if they are recognizing, and if they're inclusive, and if people can bring their authentic selves to work, they will have loyal members of staff. They will also have, if they tell people what they're doing, customers who are loyal. The crucial thing, I think, is that when we see companies with their rainbow flags, saying how wonderful it is in June and maybe sometimes in February in LGBT History Month, are they following through? And that's the big challenge. And I think we need to work with unions. Now, for me, unions are incredibly important. We had to kick them. It took them a while to wake up to women's issues, let alone LGBT issues and black issues, but they are more aware now. Now, we have 2 days, the Trade Union Council have what my partner in crime, Paul Patrick, who I started LGBT History Month with, called the LGBT detention. 2 days of where LGBT representatives would sit in the TUC building as hot as this and to actually debate what they were going to do the following year and do pass motions and all the rest of it. Fabulous networking opportunity. I mean, that is incredible. I mean, there was no way when back in the 60s that I could envisage unions being that supportive of LGBT people. And one of the reasons that we've got that is because of this. Yeah. The people who worked and recognized the need to support the miners in the 80s, who made connections with them. Miners were being shat on, we were being shat on. We could work together, we could support each other. And the work that they did to support the miners then tumbled through. And the GMB began to recognize, oh God, yes, those lesbians and gays aren't that bad after all, and began to make the connections themselves. And it was the GMB who then went to the TUC and said, wake up, we need to think about LGBT issues. And you might remember that amazing march that we had after Section 28 was passed. The miners led the Pride March. So that political statement that we need to make in Pride, to me, is incredibly important. It's community, it's fun, it's protest, but it's reminding ourselves and everybody else that we need to make a common cause with each other and with people around the world to make sure that human rights are taken seriously. Is that enough? Do you want to carry on? I mean, I can talk for England. But I don't know how long you want.
I know you can. But should we take some questions?
Take questions, yes, feel free. Yes,
how do you keep your t-shirts so nice after all?
Well, I don't wear it that often, and I was a bit shocked when I put it on this afternoon. I thought, I've obviously put on weight.
It's probably worth something now. I don't know.
It probably is, yes. I mean, there's been some wonderful pieces of theatre recently about Section 28. The Royal Court had one called After the Act, which was stunning. Anybody see it? Oh, you missed an amazing piece. Really powerful piece looking at what was the effect of Section 28 on people. And one of the things that I really want to talk to you about is Section 28 was 15 years of hell for many, many kids and teachers. They went back into the closet and kids heard nothing about LGBT people. The terrible irony is that was unnecessary. It was legally possible to talk about. Go on.
There are people here who wouldn't know what
Section 28 is. You're absolutely right. So quickly tell you, thank you. Section 28 was a piece of legislation that came in 1988, which said, thou shalt not promote homosexuality or promote the concept of a pretended family relationship. And that lasted for 15 years. But when we were fighting it, I began to recognize, I was working in the arts lobby and the education lobby, and I was going up to the House of Lords and giving them information about things. And as I was researching it, I realized that in fact their intention was to stop the work in schools. But they had already passed a law which moved a lot of the authority of schools from local authorities to governors. So in fact, Section 28 did not legally affect schools. And I was out and proud those whole 15 years. Schools outran conferences throughout those 15 years. We never got prosecuted. People came to the conferences. We ran a very early website with lots of resources on it. Paul and I did lots of work with local authorities. So although those 15 years were hell, they were hell because of the media. The media told the lies. The media said you can't talk about LGBT people. The media said we were dreadful. The media said that we were, abusers and pederasts and goddess alone knows what. They pushed the agenda. So nobody believed us when we told them, no, it's legal. The power of the press was so powerful. This is what's happening now around the trans issues.
Can I just say,
Please do.
I used to collect gay times every month, and
Yes.
I've still got all of my gay times from
Tell
1988
Bishopsgate.
to 1991. And I was looking through them the other day, and some of the headlines,
Horrific.
puff this, puff that,
Yeah.
leave our kids alone, who read those,
No,
This was in the local papers every
Yes,
day.
yes. And the atmosphere was horrific. So people were scared and did think that they couldn't do it. So even those schools out were telling people, and the unions tried to tell people, and we do have some quotes from the Department of Education saying it didn't affect schools. People just did not believe it. They were so scared from what the media, and also they were scared in exactly the same way as we are now, that teachers don't know what to do around trans kids because they're afraid of the gender critical parent who will come in and challenge. And there isn't enough information yet to challenge back. Although, interestingly enough, I've just picked up this morning, the EHRC have just done a little bit of a U-turn around toilets. Not a big one, but a little one. So, but we are in a mess at the moment. And I think what's crucial is that we need to learn what this legal situation is. So the Good Law Project, you all know about the Good Law Project? If you don't, find them. They are an amazing, wonderful institution that are putting money into, they are the front line for democracy at the moment for us. They are working so hard on so many different levels, taking the government to court on so many things. Really, if you can afford to support anybody, at the moment, I think the Good Law Project is really something that you need to be thinking about, because the work that they are doing is absolutely the front line on democracy. Having said that, of course, I always bring LGBT History Month badges with me. Now, the badges are rather amazing. They're designed by kids every year. LGBT History Month is every February. We've been running since 2005, so we're on our 20th year. And we ask kids to design badges to the theme of the month, of the month, which is in the whole year. This year, we chose activism and social change. We chose it about 3 years ago. We had no idea it was going to be so important for this year. So a kid has designed this. It was a 13-year-old in a Roman Catholic school.
Jesus Christ.
Isn't that wonderful? Yes, Jesus Christ indeed. Jesus Christ would be very pleased.
He had 12 disciples.
Yes, he had 12 disciples. He was talking about love thy neighbour. He was very fond of prostitutes. So, if he came back now, he would be absolutely furious with what the Christians do. So they're 2 for £5 or £3 each, and I take cards. Any more questions?
Anyone?
Goodness, have I shut you all up?
Where is that talk of money?
Well, there's always talk of money. As charities at the moment, what Tom has done with the lottery is just phenomenal. I mean, I think, you know, if you're not in the lottery,
You raised
Please do.
500,000 pounds already.
I mean, he's
Yeah.
really brilliant. I mean, it's such a brilliant idea to actually support LGBT
We're
charities.
out for Community Initiative of the Year on Friday at the Rainbow Honours Awards, so pray for us.
Definitely they deserve
I'll
it.
clip my heels.
Thanks.
Yeah, get yourself in the lottery,
Thank you.
please do. Any other thoughts, any other things about, I mean, how do you feel about, how many of you people have been on a pride of some kind or other? Yes, everybody? Yeah, so what's important for you about pride?
Being visible.
Being visible? Yeah.
Having a voice.
Yeah.
Saying, we are here.
Even in the big London ones, do you
Yeah.
go to small community ones? as
I've
well?
not been to the smaller ones, I must confess.
Are there anyone near where you live?
I live in Slough, so this is probably the nearest.
So,
Yeah, so I have twin sons, and a couple of years ago we were walking down our street, and it's a small street in South London, and one of the boys said, "There's a lot of gays on this street," and we were like, "Yeah." So we counted up, and we counted 15 people we knew who lived on the street that were gay or lesbian, and they said, "That's enough for a parade." So I said to one of the women on our street, "We should organize
a little street
First
parade.
Down Pride."
Yeah.
And so we did, and it was so successful. We had 200 participants come to the event, straight, gay, bi, everything.
Yeah.
And then we took over our local pub and won Wandsworth Council's Fringe Festival of the Year, and they gave us £2,000 for the next year to do the same thing.
Wow.
And so we did it 2 years in a row, and then the woman that I was organizing with, she's like, "That's enough, they'll expect it every year." So we took a break this year, but it, from the mouths of babes, really,
Yes.
you know, and it was, and the
And
community support is
I
amazing.
think it's so important that we challenge the rubbish that people come up with about, you know, why don't you have a straight pride and why are local authorities putting money into it? I mean, it's back to section 28 when I would say, look, we're ratepayers. We've been paying our rates for years and we're not getting any service. So for heaven's sake, you know, we deserve this. This is, we're part of the community. We pay rates. We need a service. If we're ignored and we don't get a service, that's not good enough. So the challenge of that work is really crucial. But I mean, interesting that it's Wandsworth because I think Wandsworth is now Labour, isn't it?
It's now Labour, but it was under the Conservatives.
Oh,
when
for
we
years.
organized. When we organized.
When you organised, it was Conservative.
It was
Oh,
Conservative,
great.
and then, but it was complete, you know, it didn't really matter. I mean, it was really, we just decided to do it, and don't get me started on Wandsworth. But anyway, they piggybacked on it, and just said, "Oh, we're doing Pride."
Yeah.
I was like, "No, you're not doing Pride.
No,
we're
doing
doing
it.
Pride."
Yes.
Yes.
And I think that's the crucial thing. It's about the whole thing about pinkwashing, isn't it?
Yes.
That we have to make, you know, when companies are doing something, you know, go into looking at what they're doing. Are they treating their staff appropriately? Is there a union support?
Sorry to come in again, I feel like I'm
Please, no,
dragging
please
it in,
do.
but I work for an American company, Stanley Black & Decker, like the world's biggest tool manufacturer. And under Biden, the management was quite liberal. So we had, you know, multicolored flags flying above head office in Baltimore.
Yeah.
And then the management changed. Trump came in. We gave $1 million to Trump's election campaign. All the flags came down. All of the LGBTQ plus pages came off the workplace.
Yeah.
And I was saying to Lloyd earlier that I'm just looking for a new job because I don't enjoy working with these people anymore. That's the
No.
problem, isn't
That's
it?
sad. That's so sad.
And I think it's really interesting because I think
It was
that-
totally box ticking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yes, and I think that's
You
the
know.
biggie, that we have to challenge, you know, look at, is it box ticking? Is it real? And I think using our unions is so important to actually make sure that it isn't box ticking. And
Yes.
get our unions involved, get the networks involved. I mean, TFL have got the most amazing LGBT network. And they've done some really great work, but they still have to keep pushing. And BTP suddenly had been doing wonderful work. British Transport Police have been very supportive of LGBT issues, and then suddenly, what do they do around the trans thing? Come up with this ridiculosity about, you know, searching people had to be biologically, you know, a man could be searching a woman who was now a trans woman. Ridiculous. So I think, you know, we have to be very vigilant and we have to challenge. What I think is also happening is that there are some companies in America, clearly not yours, who are beginning to fight back and actually say, look, we know that it's a business issue here, and if we tumble, we will lose staff and we will lose people. And I mean, if you looked at the No King marches across America, I mean, my partner's American, so our home is, you know, full of fury. But the no key marches, I think, were quite incredible. I mean, and I think that has, really pushed things and really challenged people. And I think there will be companies who will be rethinking. But we have to be vigilant. We have to challenge. We have to ask, what do they really do? Okay.
Hi. So I really like the fact that when what you said about the Pride being a protest and the Pride also being the celebration. Because I think to some extent some of this activism has been the hand that fed it. With this whole idea of like, well, no, it's just a protest. Like you reclaim the Pride. I'm sorry, I work with elderly people as young persons. They need a day out.
Yes.
Right? You cannot hold hostage the whole community saying that now we all have to suffer together, print the banners and go to the streets. Because we do need this one day when we actually are not living in this oppression. I work with 12 to 18-year-olds and 18 to 25-year-olds, and a lot of my members are also refugees and asylum seekers. So they come to this country to, experience those freedoms. And the last thing they need to be told is like, well, to the barricades. Yes, we do to some issues, and I think when there is a need, we do come together as a community. When Orlando shooting happened, the whole Soho was crowded to oblivion, which shot my social anxiety through the roof, which I didn't know I had before. So that was quite interesting. But I think there's so many different ways of celebrating Pride as well. And I think for young persons that I work with, one thing we started when Raphael was one of my young persons back in the day, many years ago. He only looks like it. We started, actually Raphael was managing the very first Pride prom, which is end of school celebration, because a lot of our members told us, I don't want to go to my school prom, because it isn't an environment where I feel welcomed, I can't bring the person that I like, I can't dress how I like I don't want to go to my school prom. Can you organize a queer one? And as naive as I am, yeah, sure, how difficult could it be? Fast forward 20 years, I've aged 20 years in this very short period of time. And I think it's quite interesting to see how they interact with one another. I think that's quite fascinating, of how welcoming, kind and supportive they are of one another, even they come on their own. And a lot of them, we kind of estimate about 60% of them come on their own. And they are not known to us previously, as well as our members that are current members. So it is so fascinating to see it actually, and it is this kind of celebration and this kind of coming together community unity, because you do need to have something positive as a community to celebrate. If it is just going to be pain and suffering and let's go to the barricade, it will burn us out really quickly.
No, but we do both.
Really, and we do both. And our young persons do all the time. Some of our members are involved with trans kids deserve better, so they did all the occupation protests. And some of our members do constantly talk and write letters to the MP. We are teaching them activism, but one does not stop the other, and I think we have to be very careful we are not burning each other out. Sorry, I feel like I have to do the podcast of mine.
They used to be.
Crucial, Lucas. I think one of the things that taught me, Stuart Milk. Do you know does everybody know who Harvey Milk is? Okay, so Stuart Milk. No, yes, yeah. Stuart Milk is his nephew, and I've been working with him for many years. And he got me to come on a Pride with Levi's, and I was very uncomfortable. Why do I want to work with Levi's? Goddess. All right, they give Stuart Milk some money, that's nice, but they're a big commercial company. They take over enormous space on the Pride, and they spend tons on floats, which really, if I could have that money, I could do so much more with. Didn't want to go, but Stuart insisted. So I went along, and it was a really important learning process for me, because there were so many people in that march from Levi's who had never been on a Pride before, felt comfortable in going because their company was supporting it, and their parents were with them. So that was really intriguing. That was a very good learning experience for me to actually recognize companies can do. Yes, I'd love their money on the float, but they were actually doing something constructive and making a safe space for their staff to be there. So
it's interesting. Last year's Pride was sponsored by Adobe Systems, the London Pride. And when I was 24, I organized Adobe's first gay and lesbian group in Seattle. And we had a Pride contingency of 9 guys who walked carrying the big Adobe A. And nobody else in the organization wanted to come out and be in the parade because they were concerned. And now, fast forward 605 years, and they're sponsoring Pride in London, which I think is just incredible. incredible.
Adobe, the
software
PDF,
company.
the software
Yeah,
company,
But
yes.
it's still doing it this year.
I don't know if they're doing it this year, but
Yeah, they
I
have
can
to
remember. I
school
can
down.
remember we had a thing called Aquanet, which was the Adobe Queer Network,
Yeah.
and nobody. I put a message out on the message board, and so many people, despite all the creatives there within the company, were afraid of coming out. And now, fast forward, here we are.
That's right. But I think, as I'm saying, we have to be vigilant.
Yes.
Because the backlash is strong. And I think one of the things that we as a community are so good at is when we are being oppressed, when we are attacked, our creativity is phenomenal. And our abilities to fight back is crucial. I mean, I have a searing memory of being in the House of Lords when they were debating Section 28, and I was sitting in one part of the Strangers Gallery, and there was another gallery over there, and I clocked these dykes over there, and I was sitting next to Sheila Hancock, of those of you who remember who she is, who was constantly telling me to shut up because I was getting very cross. When they passed it, I flew out because I was desperate for a pee, heard a kerfuffle, flew back in, and the dykes were no longer there, and there was just rope. So I actually missed the abseiling dykes in the House of Lords. But what a wonderful creative way.
Yeah.
And I think that, the creativity of our community to challenge is phenomenal. And I think part of the work that we do in LGBT History Month is support the cultural stuff. And you can have legal stuff, but if the cultural stuff isn't there, then it doesn't change. Yes.
Can I just say that I obviously was gay. I spent a long time being gay, but there was nothing, nobody out there who ever wanted to speak to me other than just have sex. And that was it. So I knew my family would want me dead. So I was attempting suicide all the time, and eventually to get run over. And now find myself injured and mobility impaired. And the majority of gay people, it seems, really, really dislike me.
Well, I can only be very sorry and appalled, and clearly you haven't found your tribe yet. There are tribes within the gay groups where there will be people. I mean, there's a massive group of working around disability. I mean, there's Para Pride, which has the most amazing events every year.
Every time I've emailed Para Pride, nothing. I phone up, nothing.
Okay, give me your number and I will introduce you to Danielle, because that's not good.
Yeah, but I met him, I think, here. Nothing.
Well, we're not brilliant. We're not
Yeah,
perfect.
absolutely
I'm sure I
nothing.
Well,
Yeah, but nothing.
Okay, I hear you.
I mean,
I can't apologize.
it's obviously
I will do my
personal.
best. I will
It's
do my best.
obviously
Yes.
personal.
Yes.
I didn't know about that, but just please
We will
send me
do some.
details.
I will
Yeah,
talk to
Mm.
Danielle.
I will do that. Remind me.
I think one of the things that people forget is Schools Out is run by entire volunteers. I have, for 50 years I've been doing all this basically voluntary. If I earn money, I give it back to Schools Out. Can't anymore because the pension doesn't do the job anymore. But a lot is expected of small groups, and we can't always deliver because we're stretched. The burnout can be there, and also I can't pick up every email, and I'm sure that's true of other groups. If you don't know the LGBT Consortium, find them, because they are the umbrella organisation for all the LGBT charities, and they will have lists of all the prides, and they will have lists of all the youth groups. So there's some really, gay.com, gay business.
GPN is a member.
GPN is a member, but also, what you were saying, G-work is obviously very important. Networking is crucial. Supporting each other is crucial, and there's a voice saying we're not doing a good job. We have got to do a better job. Thank you so much for coming.
You can have a look at the book.